A little over a year ago, I revisited one of my all-time favorite games in its remaster, Fable Anniversary. As I mentioned in that video, Fable is the game I've played more than any other. Considering the innumerable times I played the original, this trip down the nostalgia hole left me yearning to reacquaint myself with the rest of the franchise, as the memory of its successors was a smidge less vivid in my mind. So after nearly 16 years, I finally dove back into Fable II. Before I get into it, while my memory of this game was very hazy going in, it cleared up quickly thanks to my extensive past playthroughs, evidenced by my having completed every achievement the game had to offer back in 2008. Fable II takes place 500 years after the original title. Now in a pre-industrial age, the technologies, land, and people of Albion have changed. The Age of Heroes has come to an end, deemed corrupt and unnecessary by the people, leading to the destruction of the Heroes Guild in the riots following the defeat of Jack of Blades. One of the franchise's signature features is that each game spans many years, immersing you in your character's story from childhood, serving as a prologue and tutorial, to young adulthood, and even into jacked elderhood. At the start, the player is given the option to play as a boy or a girl, and so our story begins. Orphaned and living on the streets of the Bowerstone slums, our hero and his sister Rose are drawn to a crowd surrounding a traveling merchant selling supposedly magical goods. Skeptical of the trader, Rose decides that what little gold they can earn would be better spent on food. However, an old woman, obvious to anyone who's played the original, later revealed to be Teresa, the sister of the original game's protagonist, encourages the children to spend their gold on a music box said to grant a wish. The children, intrigued by Teresa's words, purchase the music box and make a wish for a better life. The box plays its music, glowing and spinning with increasing intensity, before suddenly disappearing. With their life seemingly unchanged, the children return to their makeshift shelter where the dog they rescued earlier that day is waiting for them. Later that night, their wish seems to come true when they're invited to live in the castle of Lucien Fairfax, the ruler of Bowerstone. However, their dream soon turns into a nightmare as Lucien, searching for heroes to fulfill an ancient prophecy, realizes that the siblings possess heroic blood, but they're not the ones he seeks, making them a threat to his plans. Lucien shoots Rose and then targets our protagonist. The hero is knocked back through a window and falls from the tower. Miraculously surviving the fall, our young hero is found and guided by Teresa. As the hero grows into early adulthood, they learn of their potential and the need to recruit the heroes of strength, will, and skill to defeat Lucien. Fable II's gameplay receives several notable changes, particularly in combat. Weapons are now categorized by speed, slow, normal, and fast, rather than weight, with firearms having specific numerical stats. Crossbows have been upgraded in speed, but longbows have been omitted entirely, which is a bit disappointing as Skorm's bow and multi-arrow were my jam in the original. Your hero's abilities can now be upgraded from the menu rather than needing to return to the Chamber of Fate. Using experience points, players can unlock important abilities such as blocking, rolling, flourish attacks, free aim, and targeted aim. While some of these were available by default in the original Fable, this installment introduces new and stylish features, such as the ability to knock enemies off cliffs, slow-mo finishing moves, and magic attacks with both targeted and AoE variants. Additionally, you can assign which spell to be used at each level of charge. Having been by the hero's side since childhood, the canine companion assists our character in various ways. In battle, the dog helps by mauling downed enemies. It also sniffs out treasures and dig spots during your travels, performs tricks, and participates in expressions with the protagonist. As your character's appearance changes with their moral alignment, the dog's appearance will reflect this transformation.
I am untethered and my rage knows no bounds! I mean, woof, woof.
Additionally, you can change your dog's breed using potions introduced in the DLC. These potions, along with the initial DLC quests, are available very early in the game. Fable II expands on the iconic morphing and morality systems of the first title, which affect the protagonist's appearance based on factors such as moral alignment, strength and skills, food consumption, and battle scars. The sequel adds a new layer of complexity with the introduction of a second alignment gauge measuring corruption and purity. This gauge is influenced by actions such as drinking, paying for sex, having multiple spouses, and charging excessive rent, which increase corruption. On the other hand, maintaining a happy family, doing jobs in town, and lowering rent increase purity. Alongside morality, this gauge further influences the hero's appearance and how NPCs perceive and interact with them.
Oh no! Please don't kill me! Please!
Jobs are a new feature introduced in Fable II. As players explore new towns, they can engage in various occupations, such as blacksmithing, bartending, woodchopping, bounty hunting, or accepting assassination contracts. Additionally, players can put it all on the line by gambling in various pub games. An Xbox Live Arcade companion game, Fable II Pub Games, was released prior to Fable II and allowed players to transfer their winnings to the main game, providing an opportunity to boost their in-game wealth before even starting. However, these methods of earning gold become largely irrelevant a few hours into the game if you focus on what is effectively a BlackRock simulator. By purchasing property, raising the rent, and acquiring more properties, spending gold very quickly becomes entirely inconsequential, as you'll receive rent payments every 5 minutes of real-world time, even when you're not playing, allowing you to log in to a major influx of gold. And if you're concerned about maintaining your moral alignment, you can simply reduce the rent once you've accumulated enough properties and wealth, making gold management less of a concern. Compared to the first game, purchasing property in Fable II is much more convenient, as it doesn't require the dereliction or death of the previous owner. All properties are inherently purchasable, with a few exceptions that require the completion of certain quests, one of which results in the development of a town. Additionally, you can buy furniture to redecorate your properties, and if you marry, you can set an allowance for your family home. Setting a generous allowance and making regular check-ins will keep your spouse happy and prevent them from leaving you. You can also have children, who enjoy occasionally receiving gifts from their adventuring parent, and may even try to emulate you by running away to become an adventurer, setting you up for a rescue mission. Many of Fable 2's new features helped improve the overall gameplay experience, and the inclusion of swimming allowed for hidden locations off the beaten path, literally. Even though I'm not a huge fan of minigames, I love the concept of companion apps, which if done today, could have had a mobile version. This game also came out around the time online multiplayer was really starting to take off, and leaned into this aspect pretty heavily. When enabled, you could see orbs representing other players moving around the world in real time. By interacting with a player's orb, you could view their stats and send gifts or invite them into your world. Fable 2 also included couch co-op, a feature unfortunately largely abandoned in today's gaming landscape. Whether online or on the couch, the co-op experience can be customized to set the percentage of gold and experience split between players. If a second player is not importing their own profile, they can select one of several character types and their weapons, with stats matching the host. Another way in which Fable 2 leaned into online interactions was through the implementation of hero dolls. There are 6 collectible dolls, but only 2 are randomly available in the game, with 2 more becoming available in the DLC. To complete the collection and earn the Doll Catcher achievement, you must trade with other players. This brings me to my first criticism of the game. While I do enjoy online interactions, I hate when they become necessary to complete in-game tasks. I prefer when everything can be acquired or completed in solo play. Additionally, the method for teaching your dog new tricks and upgrading its combat and treasure hunting skills occurs through purchasing books.
Knowledge.
Though I feel it would have been much more impactful to acquire these upgrades through side quests that could foster a deeper connection with your canine companion. While the implementation of a good boy was a great idea, I don't think the technology was quite there yet. As you traverse the world, the dog's constant sniffing for treasure can disrupt the flow of exploration. To make matters worse, the dog's pathfinding AI constantly gets jammed up, forcing you to stand around like a lemon while Sparky tries to figure out a way around a lump in the ground. There are so many treasures scattered around the world, from dig spots and chests to silver key chests and demon doors. Yet a lot of these treasures feel super underwhelming. It seemed like legendary weapons and armor were far less plentiful in this installment. And when I did find a new legendary weapon, it was usually overshadowed by whatever gear I already had equipped. Plus, most dig spots and regular chests only contained a few gold, which felt like a waste of time, given you can make preposterous amounts of money by literally doing nothing. The authentic landlord experience. There were also 50 gargoyles hidden across Albion. These stony stooges would taunt you until you shot them, with a special reward to be claimed once all were destroyed. However, free aiming was a skill that had to be unlocked, so I had to walk by many of these marbled mooks and try to remember their locations at a later time. Another key aspect of an RPG is the equipable outfits and weapons. While Fable II did expand its cosmetic options with coats, masks, and the ability to dye clothing and hair, I found that most of the base game outfits weren't particularly impressive, so I ended up spending a huge chunk of the early game dressed as Mr. Chef. I also noticed a ton of new cosmetic microtransactions had been added since I originally played this game. As someone who likes collecting everything, this really rubbed me the wrong way. I already dislike this practice, but it's especially annoying when there isn't an option to buy everything in a single pack. So I decided to skip the microtransactions I did not already own. Another minor annoyance, which won't affect everyone, is related to a post-game quest that lets you change your character's sex. I didn't realize that using the potion would cause the game to autosave immediately, leaving me stuck as this truck of a lady. It also led to the game referring to my wife as my husband, though this glitch is likely due to how the game handles your children's references to their mom and dad. A few final notable criticisms are worth mentioning. First, experience orbs can only be collected when you're completely stationary. While I understand not being able to do this during combat, it would have been nice to collect them while just walking around. Next, the prominence of hints and prompts, which took up a sizable portion of the top of the screen, unnecessarily detracted from the action and scenery. Additionally, while the animated cutscenes were immaculate and still hold up to today's standards, they were disappointingly rare, and the final boss was probably the most underwhelming I've ever experienced. My last piece of criticism concerns the second morality gauge. I didn't see any meaningful distinction between the good-evil and pure corrupt gauges. It felt less like a genuine evolution of the morality system, and more like an excuse for additional morphing options.
It's morphin' time!
This also led to some oxymoronic moral categories, such as being pure yet evil, or corrupt yet good. One potential alternative could have been to have a lawful, chaotic gauge. While I may have spent more time than even I anticipated on critiques, it's intended only to have an honest conversation about a series that I have such a deep appreciation for. All told, a lot of the criticism I offered here was simply a result of the early 360 era jank, and I still had a great time revisiting it. Discovering how Albion has changed since the original game, and seeing its continued evolution within Fable II, allowed the old to feel new again. The quality of life improvements, evolved gameplay systems, and inclusion of a post-game plugging a hint towards the third installment offered a real sense of longevity for the series. Now I'm eagerly awaiting an opportunity to jump back into Fable 3. There was a time when Fable was rightfully treated as one of Xbox's flagship series, and it was the reason I was tricked into buying an Xbox One before Microsoft, in their infinite wisdom, decided to cancel Fable Legends and shut down Lionhead Studios. With a new Fable game in development, I've learned to remain cautiously optimistic. In all honesty, nothing I've seen has really piqued my excitement yet, and I fear Fable's visual identity might be lost in the more photorealistic approach. That being said, I intend to go in with an open mind and really hope that Playground Games can match the humorous tone and live up to the standards set by Lionhead Studios. But I'd love to hear your thoughts about your experience with Fable 2, and if you're interested in the upcoming title, what are you hoping to see from it? Let me know down in the comments. If you've enjoyed what you've witnessed here today, leaving a like and subscribe is always appreciated, and I hope you'll join me in the next one. I've been Pungent Funk. Keep it funky, fellas.